Dopamine detox is a lie, but the problem is real. Millions of people are dopamine fasting right now, deleting apps for a weekend, sitting in silence, treating a Saturday like a liver cleanse for their brain. Here's the part nobody tells you. You cannot detox from a chemical your own body manufactures every second you're conscious. That term is scientifically empty. But the compulsive checking that sent you looking for a detox in the first place, that's completely real, fully measurable, and explained by 3 findings almost nobody repeating this trend has actually read. Chapter 1. The man who coined the phrase never meant it the way you think. Dopamine fasting traces back to one person, Dr. Cameron Suppa, a psychologist who published a guide to it in August 2019. It hit 140,000 views in under a day. Every major outlet, the BBC, the New York Times, ABC, ran with it. And almost none of them quoted the actual method correctly. Suppa built the technique on cognitive behavioral therapy, not neurochemistry. His real protocol is stimulus control, restrict to compulsive behavior, emotional eating, gaming, gambling, doom scrolling, to a defined window instead of letting it run all day. He never claims the practice changes your dopamine levels. He said so directly. Dopamine makes for a catchy title, and it was never supposed to be taken literally. The internet took the metaphor and sprinted straight past the man who wrote it. People stopped eating, stopped exercising, stopped talking to their own families, convinced they were flushing a toxin out of their skull. None of that has a shred of scientific basis. The therapist who started this never asked for it. Chapter 2. You cannot detox from a molecule your brain is making right now. Detox implies a substance built up that needs to be purged. Heavy metals, alcohol, something foreign your body wants gone. Dopamine isn't foreign. It isn't stored in a tank that fills up and needs draining. Your brain synthesizes it continuously, in specific circuits, doing specific jobs, for as long as you're alive. There is no detox state to reach, because there was never a toxin to begin with. Ask what dopamine actually is instead of what a blog post decided it means, and the whole premise collapses in one sentence. You cannot fast from something you physically cannot stop producing. So if the framing is nonsense, why did deleting your apps for a weekend still feel like it helped? Because you accidentally did the one thing that actually works. You didn't detox anything, you removed the triggers. There was never a tank. There was only ever a switch. That's the real mechanism, and it's about to get a lot more specific. Chapter 3. Dopamine was never the pleasure chemical, it's the anticipation chemical. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz recorded individual dopamine neurons in a monkey's brain and paired a light with a squirt of fruit juice. Before the monkey learned the pattern, dopamine fired when the juice hit its tongue. The reward everyone assumed dopamine was celebrating. But once the monkey learned the light meant juice was coming, the firing moved. It stopped firing at the juice. It fired at the light instead. That single shift rewired an entire field. Dopamine isn't a pleasure signal, it's a prediction signal. When a reward lands exactly as expected, dopamine barely responds. When it lands better than expected, dopamine spikes. When the light comes on and the juice never shows up, dopamine drops below baseline, a real punishment signal for a broken promise. You are not chasing pleasure when you refresh your phone. You are chasing the split-second prediction that something good is about to happen. Not the same thing. Dopamine doesn't reward you for getting the reward. It rewards you for guessing right. Chapter 4. Wanting a thing and enjoying a thing run on 2 separate systems entirely. Neuroscientist Kent Berridge proved this with an experiment that should have killed the dopamine equals pleasure myth decades ago. He took rats and stripped out nearly all the dopamine in their brains, up to 99% gone. If dopamine were pleasure, these rats should have stopped enjoying anything. They didn't. Given sugar water, dopamine-depleted rats still made the exact same hedonic facial reactions healthy rats make, the rat equivalent of a satisfied smile. Liking, fully intact. Wanting, gone. Those same rats stopped seeking food entirely. They'd sit next to a full bowl and starve because the drive to go get it had been surgically removed along with the dopamine, while the capacity to enjoy it once it arrived stayed exactly the same. Run it in reverse, spike dopamine artificially, and rats will frantically chase a reward without it becoming any more enjoyable once they get it. The same split shows up in humans. Suppress dopamine in a person craving something, and their reported pleasure barely moves, but their drive to get more of it drops noticeably. Wanting and liking aren't 2 words for one feeling. They're 2 circuits, tracked separately in 2 species, and dopamine only ever answers to one of them. Chapter 5. This is why the checking never satisfies you, no matter how many times you do it. Put those 2 findings together and your phone stops being a mystery. Every notification is a light before the juice, a prediction that something rewarding might be waiting. Dopamine fires on that prediction alone, before you've even unlocked the screen. But opening the app engages the liking system, the one dopamine barely touches. So you get a hit of wanting on every single check, and only an occasional, unreliable hit of actual satisfaction on the other end. You're not addicted to your phone, you're addicted to the light. The juice is almost beside the point. Your brain at 11 p.m., checking the app for the 9th time in an hour. This next one will be good, I can feel it. It wasn't. It's never actually good enough to justify the check. That's not a bug, that's the entire mechanism working exactly as designed. This is precisely why deleting the apps for a weekend produces a real, noticeable calm. Not because any chemical got flushed out, because you switched off the light. No artificial spike demanding a check that liking can't actually pay off. Chapter 6. None of this is an accident. It's the exact mechanism a slot machine runs on. In the 1950s, B.F. Skinner ran thousands of trials, testing how different reward schedules shape behavior, and one result stood above every other he ever measured. Put pigeons on a fixed schedule, same payoff every time, and you get the weakest, most fragile habit. Put them on a variable schedule, one that pays out unpredictably, and the same pigeons will peck up to 12,000 times an hour without pausing. Cut the reward off completely, and the variably rewarded pigeons keep pecking roughly 4 times longer before they give up than the ones on the predictable schedule. Same species, same box, same food. The only variable was certainty, and removing certainty made the behavior almost impossible to kill. Skinner pointed out the obvious application himself. A casino doesn't need to persuade anyone to hand over money for nothing. It just needs to pay some of it back on an unpredictable schedule, and the behavior sustains itself. Can you predict which scroll will surface something worth your time? No. Can you predict which push notification will actually matter? No. Is that unpredictability an accident of app design? Not even close. It's the design, engineered by people who studied exactly this research and pointed the slot machine at your pocket. The light before juice signal from Chapter 3 and the variable ratio schedule from a pigeon lab in the 1950s are the same lever, pulled by 2 different fields that arrived at the identical answer decades apart. Chapter 7. The fix was never the fast, it was the stimulus control sepod described in the first place. Once you see the real mechanism, the actual protocol writes itself, and it isn't mystical. You don't need to purge anything, because there was nothing to purge. You need to remove the lights. Batch the triggers, notifications, open tabs, the apps engineered to fire that anticipation signal at you, into narrow, deliberate windows, exactly like the CBT technique this whole trend was built on before the internet renamed it into pseudoscience. Does that mean deleting every app forever? No. Does it mean checking on your own schedule instead of theirs? Yes. Does it mean the craving disappears the moment you close the window? No. But it stops running the show. Every trigger you remove on purpose is one less light promising a juice that dopamine will make you chase, and liking will rarely reward. Here's the cheat code, stripped down to what actually survives scrutiny. 1. There was never a tank to drain. Dopamine fasting is a real therapist CBT technique wearing a fake neurochemical name. 2. Dopamine fires on anticipation and prediction error, not pleasure, proven directly in monkey neurons, not assumed from a blog post. 3. Wanting and liking are separate systems, which is exactly why chasing the want so rarely delivers the satisfaction it promised. 4. The unpredictable schedule making this so hard to walk away from isn't bad luck. It's the single most reliable behavior locking mechanism a psychology lab ever documented, aimed at you on purpose. If you followed the mechanics of the 23-minute recovery tax in the last autopsy, this is the engine sitting underneath it, the light that keeps luring you back into the very interruptions that cost you. Go watch that one next if you haven't. Same rigor, the other half of the same problem. If this rewired how you think about your own cravings, subscribe. We're building the rest of this manual, one autopsy at a time.